Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Kartbox. So with 2024 behind us, we are looking towards the future of Nintendo, wondering what games are on the horizon. There's been talk of a new Donkey Kong game, and we're all still waiting to hear what's going on with Metroid Prime 4, but the biggest discussion is the fact that people are wondering if there's going to be a successor to the Switch this year. I got my bets on the fact that we'll see it in the holiday, but that's another bridge to cross when we come to it. But with a new console, that usually means a new Mario Kart. Yes, the Switch didn't actually have its own variation of Mario Kart. It did technically take the Wii U version with 8, but 8 Deluxe with the Booster Course Pass added so much content that it's basically just its own game. And with that, a lot of people are asking, well, where do we go from here? Where does Mario Kart go next? It's gotten almost every single course, it's gotten so many characters and so many updates. Where do we go? So I want to tackle what I think the future of Mario Kart might look for us, and toss in a couple ideas that have been swirling around in my head. So for starts, what I want to talk about is that it's not going to be called Mario Kart 9. I don't see a world where that happens, mostly because we already have Mario Kart 9, and that's Mario Kart Tour. Yes, Nintendo's never explicitly called it Mario Kart 9, but that game in and of itself has so much content, so many courses, so many characters, that it is a full-fledged Mario Kart. I put it in the same category that I would with Mario Kart DS, or Mario Kart Super Circuit, or Mario Kart 7. It is one of their handheld entries. So I think they're going to avoid doing any sort of numbered title next, mostly because I don't think they want to figure out if they count Tour in there or not. Nintendo doesn't like to make it obvious what they are doing or thinking, ever. And some say, well, what if it's going to be a Mario Kart Ultimate that has every character and every course that has ever been in a Mario Kart? Now, if that happens, would I be upset? Of course not at all. But I feel like Mario Kart 8 got pretty close to that, aside from a handful of characters and a handful of courses. And I don't think they would use the Ultimate tag again. I don't think that they would want to tie it to Smash Brothers and its naming conventions. Nintendo doesn't like to do that. That's way too uniform for them. So what I settled on is, if it is technically the 10th Mario Kart, I wouldn't be shocked if they try to call it something just like Mario Kart X. But that's just a possibility. I'm not too concerned on the name. They could call it something like Mario Kart Extreme, but you know, for all I care, they could come around and it's called Mario Kart Go Go Buggy Zoom Zoom. I don't know. Another thing I see going around is the concept of Nintendo Kart, which is bringing in a lot more characters from other Nintendo franchises and making it bigger than just a Mario Kart. Now, while I think that something like that might happen, maybe not in the fullest capacity, I don't think they're going to change the name. Mario Kart is Mario Kart. That is a name that sells, it does well. It could even be like Mario Kart Universe, if they want to call it something like that and bring in the other, I don't know. But I do think that that will lend itself to something that Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe did, which is cameo characters. We saw Link, we saw the Animal Crossing characters, and we saw Splatoon characters. I think there's a chance that we might start seeing a rotating selection of cameo characters. And of course, there's the easy ones to go for, like Captain Falcon. Would love to see him show up properly in the next Mario Kart. Or I think Samus would also do well, make her little ship a little cart. I don't know if we're going to expand the roster. If you want me to be real, I think that they're going to remove the giant pile of babies and Koopalings from the next Mario Kart, but maybe that's just me being hopeful. I also think that the way they're going to go with unlockables is less going to be about the characters, and I think something that they're going to implement that Tour did really well is costumes. Tour had a large amount of really great, fun, different costumes for just about every character. Like, I think everybody had at least one variation of some cool outfit, either of a past game, or, I mean, they would do tours like the Night Tour, and then you can get Luigi in a suit of armor. That's great. Or Sausage Luigi. You know I gotta talk about Sausage Luigi. But, you know, they have all those designs for all those costumes from Tour. Why not bring those over? I would love to be able to change it around. Sure, okay, so I play as Wario a lot. That's great, but now what if I could play as Wario in a hiker outfit? Or other incredible things from Tour like Bus Driver Waluigi. With the fact that 8 Deluxe has been around as long as it has, and if you include the original Wii U release, we're sitting in around a decade, I think it makes sense that we're going to get these kind of shakeups. I also realize that there is Mario Kart Home Circuit, but I don't think they count that as a full-fledged Mario Kart game. While Tour has a bunch of courses and characters and things like that, Home Circuit was more of a side project, and I know that that's kind of cutting it thin on why is that the only one that gets counted that way, but, you know, they didn't count the arcade machine versions as their own games when they were numbering them, so again, I'm not going to try and figure out what Nintendo was thinking, because I don't think that's possible. Something else I could see them going in the direction of, or at least something that I would like to see as a shift, is the way they do vehicle customization. I think it's been fun over the past few games being able to, you choose your kart and you choose your wheels and you choose your glider and things like that. But I don't know if I want to see that going forward, and that's more of a personal choice. I think it's fun being able to do that, but after a while, people will find the ones that just work well. Like, how many times am I going to see Waluigi on a Wiggler bike using the little tires? That's just what it is. That is the Mario Kart meta, and that's not as fun when you can just min-max your stats like that. I would love to go back to seeing personalized karts. Now, I don't want them held back by weight class like they did in Double Dash or Wii, but maybe something more akin to Mario Kart DS. I think they did a really good job with how they did the karts in DS. Every character had 2 themed karts for themselves and then a standard kart. But as the game went on, you would unlock the ability to use those other karts with other characters, which I thought was pretty cool. I just want to see them go back to doing more specifically designed karts instead of pieces. But if they like the method of building the karts, I don't blame them if they keep it around. However, I do think that there is a huge gimmick shift incoming, because they kind of peaked when they hit zero gravity. It's like, okay, we can glide, we can go underwater, we can go zero gravity, but now at a certain point, it doesn't really feel like we can build on that. I feel like we would just have to go in a brand new direction. And part of that, I think, would be the gliding in the underwater sections becoming a little less frequent, or possibly removed altogether. Not that I don't like them, but I don't feel like using my items in the air is much different than when I'm using them on the ground or when I'm using them underwater. It's more just for environments than it is for altered gameplay. Sure, you glide a little differently, you drive a little differently underwater, but it doesn't feel like it's making this massive difference in how I'm tackling my courses. However, I do think that they could start implementing those features in a way that involve more shortcuts. Like maybe the main path on some of these courses can be more direct and always on the land using a standard kart driving method, but if you find secret jumps or secret moments, you can go off of ramps that turn into a glide or special underwater segments that are a little harder to navigate with a little more difficulty, which is hard because Nintendo does want to find a good balance of letting everybody step in and play Mario Kart without feeling like they have to know better just to play well. It is a very family-friendly and welcoming game, especially to new-time players, and they won't want to get rid of that, understandably. And it was interesting as I was looking around at what modern kart games we have that aren't just things like, Garfield Kart. I've noticed that there are bigger ones around now, like Disney Speedstorm and Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. When I was looking at both of those, I realized they are live service titles. Now, do I think that the next Mario Kart is going to be live service? No, I do not. I don't think Nintendo's ever going to fully go down the route of live service. It just doesn't seem like it's in their style to do so, which is good because obviously people paid a lot of money in Tour just for costumes and characters and things like that. And as much as Nintendo would probably get the dollar signs in their eyes when they're looking at that stuff, I don't think they're going to go that route. But I do think they might rework how unlockables happen and how you can engage with things, because something that I feel has had a minimal input in the game recently is the coin feature. For example, maybe instead of just unlocking characters and karts just every time you hit a milestone of coins, I'd love to see a little shop. I would love to see things like that where you can buy costumes and buy karts and pieces purely with in-game coins. So that means that when you're driving, when you're racing, when you're playing online, when you're playing local, anything like that, you're still more incentivized to pick up those coins because, yeah, you're like, you know what? They got Sausage Luigi in the shop and I gotta buy them. Another way I could see coins getting re-implemented is for the purpose of shortcuts like I was talking about earlier, specifically coin gates. The way I envision this is that if you have a certain amount of coins, there are gates that you can go through if you have the required amount. Now, I realize I just described something from Sonic R, and that feels like a sin when I'm talking about a Mario Kart game, but we're going to keep going with this. Imagine you're racing down a track and you know that you could go straight ahead and deal with the enemies above, but if you have those extra 10 coins, you could jump off a ramp and go through one of the coin gates, which will get you access to an item box and a better path that avoids more of the danger. Which leads me to dynamic item boxes. I would love to see the ability to get slightly higher stakes items if you get item boxes that are in more precarious spots. Maybe you go through the coin gate and the item box that you hit there is more likely to give you a star or a bomb or a power item instead of the one that's down on the standard path that might give you just a banana or a shell, regardless of what place you're in. And maybe some of those special items would be like they were in Double Dash. Maybe not character specific this time, but things on the level of the Chain Chomp or the Bullet Bill would only be accessible if you get one of those high level item boxes or are in a very, very low place. So it gives you this incentive to try to collect those coins and make that special shortcut. While it is a little higher skill level if you have to play better to figure it out, that isn't something that Mario Kart has necessarily shied away from. One specific example that pops into my mind is from Yoshi's Circuit on Double Dash, which there are the shortcuts that you have to use a mushroom to get through. There's that one right at the beginning where you jump over the ramp, but more importantly, there's that one a little bit further down where if you just barely boost off at the right time on the corner, you can land on that little hidden pathway and fly off through the shell. I always try to go for that shortcut when I'm playing Double Dash, and it's worth it every time I fail because that one time you get it is so exhilarating. Hi, everybody. Post-production, Miles here. I realized that I left out a very obvious idea in the items section, which was the Wonder Flower from Super Mario Wonder. I'm talking about the courses changing or having different paths, when that's literally what the Wonder Flower does in the game. So as I was editing this, I was like, I should probably say something about that, because having some sort of Wonder Flower idea implemented into the next Mario Kart would be pretty cool. All right, let's get back to the video. Now, I made a community post a while back asking people what they'd want to see from a new Mario Kart or something that they'd like to see brought into it, and I saw this one comment that stuck out to me. It's from Hypermotion DX2. It says, unrelated, but what if there was an item that was like a grappling hook that you could use to pull other players to you or pull yourself to other players? That would be cool. And you know, I love that concept. To be fair, I am a fan of many game franchises that I love that have gone on to make sequels where they're like, yeah, what if we give them a grappling hook? It's fun, all right? I like grappling, sue me. But that would be a great item to work with. Again, maybe if those coin gates aren't a thing, we could use the grappling hook item to either drag yourself towards a player or hook onto special grapple points that bring you up to those better shortcuts or bring you to those better item boxes. It makes me think of an item from Diddy Kong Racing, which is the magnet, which works in a somewhat similar way. There are special items that were only in hard to reach spots, and if you were close enough to the player in front of you, you could use the magnet to rocket yourself forward towards them. It's a great way to bring yourself back into the race. Plus, with something like a grappling hook, especially if it's mostly used for players, that means that if you're up in first, you have a grappling hook, sure, you might be able to grab a shortcut with it. However, you can't grab onto anybody. You can't do anything with that. So you're at a disadvantage, which helps with a bit of that balance. Something else that should return is the mission mode. For those of you who played Mario Kart DS, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that mode that had different levels and different challenge missions that you could go through and complete. It didn't really unlock you anything, but who cares? It was so much fun having a truly single-player driven experience for a Mario Kart game. And how cool would it be if there were certain costumes or things like that that were locked behind specific mission challenges, so you could go through, beat those, and unlock those things for bragging rights, like maybe Golden Mario. Like maybe Metal Mario is only available if you beat one specific mission, so if you see someone driving around with a Metal Mario online, you're like, oh man, they beat that mission. That was a tough one. I should go back and give it another try. And then if we take some of these other ideas like the grappling hook, bring that into the missions, imagine a little track that's been structured just specifically for a mission where there is no ground and you have unlimited grapples, and your job is to make sure you hit all the grapple points and make it across the track without touching the ground once. There's a lot of ideas that can make Mario Kart feel fresh, exciting, and new, and whatever Nintendo decides to do for the next Mario Kart, I trust them. Mostly. So I think those kind of redesigns could be a really good way to shake up Mario Kart while still making it feel true to itself at its core. I feel like we've kind of ended the most recent era of Mario Kart that started around the Wii era, and it's time to step into something new, something exciting. And speaking of new eras, that brings into the question of the Switch 2, Switch U, Super Nintendo Switch, whatever we think it's going to be called. Do I think that the sequel to Mario Kart 8 is going to show up on the Switch? No. I do not think it is. I think that if they're able to pull it off, it might be a launch window title for the new console. I don't think it's going to be launch day, but if you're trying to get people to move to a new Nintendo console when they're so married to their Switch, what better way to do it than go, hey, we got a brand new Mario Kart exclusive to the new console. Come play it, come join the fun, let's do something, because everybody loves Mario Kart. So that about wraps up what I wanted to touch on Mario Kart today. It feels like we have a bright future ahead of us for this franchise, especially because we don't know where it could go from here, and that's when I think it's the most exciting. So let's workshop this. Let me know down in the comments what you want from a new Mario Kart. What kind of modes, what kind of characters, what kind of ideas. And don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed this. It really helps the channel grow, and we have some really cool stuff coming this year. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.